All right, let's talk about a massive challenge for pretty much every modern CPA firm out there. That feeling that you're just constantly running out of time. Well, the solution isn't about working harder, it's about a fundamental strategic shift. Today, we're going to break down how outsourcing is helping firms not just survive, but actually thrive.
So, let's start with the problem itself. If you're running a CPA firm, you know the pressure is just immense. But what are the specific forces that make it feel so tough, day in and day out? Let's get right to the heart of this dilemma.
This quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures that feeling of constant, high-stakes pressure. You're juggling tight deadlines, complex regulations, and sky-high client expectations, all at the same time. It's a feeling that, I'm sure, is all too familiar to many of you.
Okay, so let's break that juggling act down into three distinct pressures. First, you've got these constantly shifting regulations. That's a full-time job in itself. Then you have those intense seasonal peaks that stretch your team to the absolute breaking point. And underneath it all, there's this non-negotiable demand for perfect accuracy, where one tiny error can have huge consequences. It really is a perfect storm of challenges.
So, with all those challenges on the table, how are the forward-thinking firms responding? Well, this brings us to a major strategic shift, a whole new way of thinking about how work gets done, and, who does it. And this, right here, is the core idea we're digging into. We have to completely reframe how we see outsourcing. The old way of thinking saw it as just a way to cut costs, a line item on a budget. But the new, strategic view sees it as a powerful tool for staying agile, managing risk, and, just as importantly, keeping your team from burning out.
All right, so what does this big strategic shift actually look like in practice? Let's get specific. We're going to break down the core tasks that are being totally transformed by this new approach and see exactly how it works on the ground.
Let's kick things off with a major headache for everyone: tax compliance. The laws are always in flux. New credits, shifting rules, complicated reporting. Honestly, just trying to stay on top of the changes can feel like you're chasing a moving target.
And this is where the solution comes into play. When you outsource to compliance specialists, you're not just getting work done. You're plugging into a system that's constantly updated. This makes sure your filings are accurate, which, at the end of the day, massively reduces your risk of facing those dreaded non-compliance penalties.
Okay, now let's talk about a classic bottleneck: personal tax returns. This is high-volume, often repetitive work that can completely tie up your most valuable senior accountants for weeks, pulling them away from more strategic, high-value client work.
The impact here is almost immediate. Turnaround times get faster for your clients, quality stays consistent, and you gain this incredible scalability. That means you can handle that tax season surge without the cost and hassle of hiring temporary staff. It frees up your core team to do what they do best.
And now for another really complex and high-risk area: payroll. Gosh, between federal and state withholdings, benefits, deductions, even a small error here can create a massive headache for you and your clients. It's a minefield.
By outsourcing payroll, you're basically handing over this entire complex, risky system. The automated calculations and accurate deductions take a huge administrative weight off your team's shoulders. And it's not just about saving time, it's about minimizing the chance of costly errors and letting your staff concentrate on truly serving your clients.
And finally, let's touch on audit season, another notoriously intense period. The sheer volume of documentation, reconciliation, and testing requires a massive amount of skilled manpower, right? It's an all-hands-on-deck situation.
This is where outsourcing is an absolute lifesaver. It gives you the power to scale your team up or down almost instantly. You can bring in skilled support to handle all that high-volume documentation and testing, making sure you hit your deadlines and maintain quality without being overstaffed the rest of the year. It's all about having the exact resources you need right when you need them.
Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Outsourcing sounds good in theory, but there are always some big questions and concerns. So let's just tackle the two biggest ones head-on.
This is always the first question, and for a very good reason. Data security is everything. So, is it risky? The answer is a confident no, as long as you choose the right partner. In fact, top outsourcing providers often have enterprise-grade security. We're talking encrypted systems, strict access controls that can actually be more robust than what a small firm can implement on its own. You stay in control, and you make sure every privacy rule is followed.
And here's the other big concern we always hear. Will bringing in outside help make my valuable team members feel, well, redundant?
No, absolutely not. In fact, it does the exact opposite. Strategic outsourcing empowers your team. It takes all the high-volume, repetitive tasks off their plate, and that frees them up to focus on what they do best: high-level advisory, strategic planning, and building those really strong client relationships. It elevates their roles. It doesn't replace them.
So let's bring this all together. When you stop looking at outsourcing as just a cost-saving measure, and you start seeing it as a core business strategy, you unlock a really powerful competitive edge.
You can really see the difference here. The old way meant your team was overloaded, you were constantly chasing updates, and you were just struggling through those seasonal crunches. The smart way, with strategic outsourcing, leads to a focus on high-value work, way less compliance risk, and scalable resources exactly when you need them. It's a no-brainer.
So if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this simple little equation. Outsourcing equals strategy plus efficiency. It's not one or the other. The real power, the real magic, comes from combining both.
And ultimately, that's what this is all about. It's about winning back your most valuable resource, which is time. It's about systematically reducing your firm's risk. And it's about elevating the level of service and strategic advice you can provide to every single one of your clients.
And so, we'll end with a final question for you to think about. In a world of constant change and mounting pressure, what's the true cost, in stress, in missed opportunities, in burnout, of not working smarter?